Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Noelle and I review and unbox subscription boxes here on my channel. And today I have another book box that's been sent to me for review and photography to share with you. It is of course the Down the Rabbit Hole book box that comes in this lovely dark blue box. I know sometimes it almost looks black, but either way it is dark just like its contents, because indeed with this subscription we get darker reads, so some mysteries, thrillers, sometimes even some horror, and there was kind of an element of all of that in the read for September. This is the September box. I just have a couple more sitting in my TBR pile and then we'll be all caught up, so you won't see it quite as often, which is perfect for me because I think I can only really stomach maybe one of these reads per month sometimes, especially if it's as delectable as the one that we had for this particular month. Now the box is $49.99 and that does include the shipping, as well as of course the selected book, which there are hints for leading up to it. And of course, if you really want to find out the title, you can email and ask, but I think it's kind of fun to have that element of mystery. And then along with that book, we get an author bio, we get a bookmark, sometimes there's a playlist, sometimes there's some extra bookish items to enjoy while you're reading. And then there's usually, I would say, 4 to 6 different items that you open along with your reading at certain page numbers that are marked along the way. It is a really fun way to read, and I just think it is something that's gotten me back into reading, all of these subscriptions that are kind of like that. So I do have a code for you that will save you a little money. I know it was inactive, but she has reactivated it, so if you were waiting to do that, it is simply Noelle15 and that will save you 15%. So I'll put all of that information in the description box below, as I always do. So the book that we had for, what did I say? I believe this was September, and I think the hint for it was The Wonder of the Female Psychopath. So this is what that looks like. And then of course inside we have, like I said, our bio, as well as some of the quotes, some of the reviews about the book. It's by Chelsea G. Summers, and the book is called A Certain Hunger. So I always like that she includes this little author bio, so it tells us a little bit about it in that center column. That far column tells us about Down the Rabbit Hole book box, what it's all about. So maybe you actually are just receiving your first one because somebody kind of knew your taste when it comes to reading, and you're getting your first one for the year as a gift. So it is really, really fun, but this is kind of a newer book. Again, A Certain Hunger is the title of the book, and the theme for the box kind of gave it away, right? But I will go ahead and read the blurb on the back, and then I will read the passages and show you the gifts that we received. So if this is something that's in your TBR pile, you might not want to watch. Usually the spoilers aren't in terms of plot, but you would be finding out what the gifts are to go along with the box. We did also get that bookmark that I mentioned with a quote. It says, "You who call women the fairer sex, you may repress and deny all you want, but some of us were born with a howling void where our souls should sway." So very, very dark for sure. And then of course, like I said, we also got a playlist with a little QR code for Spotify. So there were 4 gifts this time around, but let me go ahead and read the blurb on the back. Food writer Dorothy Daniels loves what she does. Discerning, meticulous, and very, very smart. Dorothy's clear mastery of the culinary arts makes it likely that she could, on any given night, whip up a more inspired dish than any one of the chefs she writes about. Dorothy loves sex as much as she loves food, and while she has struggled to find a long-term partner that can keep up with her, she makes the best of her single life, frequently traveling from Manhattan to Italy for a taste of both. But there is something within Dorothy that's different from everyone else, and having suppressed it long enough, she starts to embrace what makes Dorothy uniquely, terrifyingly herself. Recounting her life from a seemingly idyllic farm-to-table childhood, the heights of her career, to the moment she plunges an ice pick into a man's neck on Fire Island, Dorothy Daniels shows us what happens when a woman finally embraces her superiority. A satire of early foodieism, a critique of how gender is defined, and a showcase of virtuoso storytelling, Chelsea G. Summers' A Certain Hunger introduces us to the food world's most charming psychopath and an exciting new voice in fiction. So I will say that I did like the satire element of it, and as well as the sort of observations about the publishing world and how that has changed, how it has changed definitely for food critics, especially as someone who, I'm like an aspiring foodie, but I don't have the cultivated tastes that it takes to be an actual food critic or writer. But you can tell that she's done a lot of both, and I was definitely surprised and startled with the opening chapter. There are definitely some pretty crazy scenes. There's definitely some pretty crazy recipes. I did kind of think it was interesting how each of the chapters started with a food, just to kind of give you a theme. Sometimes it was a little bit cheeky. Towards the end, I will say that I started to sort of tire of listening to Dorothy because she is so narcissistic and so solipsistic and just definitely egotistical, and she just kind of got to that point where it was like kind of smug, and at the same time, you know, she's telling us of her ultimate downfall as well. And there's some weird relationships going on in there, but I think she wrote about them really well. I enjoyed the novel. I don't know that I could have gone for many more pages past the, what was it? It was like probably 250 pages or so, because I was kind of ready for Dorothy to stop talking, but I did think it was good, and I did think the gifts for this particular box were pretty darn fun. So let's go ahead and see what the first one. So it opens up in a hotel bar, and I might read a couple of passages that kind of stuck out to me as well, so you can kind of get a vibe for her voice. I could also see this being a great audiobook, but I didn't want to do that for this particular read just because I wanted to see, kind of experience the mystery of it. So this one is called Chapter 1, Corpse Reviver Number 2. They all look the same, hotel bars, even when they don't. The oak and the glass, the palms and the bottles, the lighting that casts that singular glow, wrapping you in its warmth and pin-spotting your loneliness. Hotel bars smell like class privilege, desperation, and hope. I personally really like hotel bars, but you know, is that sort of anonymous feeling as well as that hopefully chic feeling. So this is what it looks like when you come to a sticky note. And then all of the gifts are wrapped, so that kind of helps you not peek. So sometimes they just come in a mailer bag like this. Of course, I have opened them ahead of time in this case because I've taken some photos of the box, but I am hoping, like I said, to get all caught up so that I can actually read as it's meant to be read and just do my photo shoot at the end. So inside we have this. So desperation, here we go. In fact, we got a cool cocktail shaker, which I thought was neat. I do have a little bar set up in my home. I have quite a few cocktail shakers, more vintage ones as well as more modern ones. I like my classic silver modern one. That's the one that I find myself using the most, although it's sometimes tricky if you're making a nice sturdy martini and you shake it up with the ice in there. Sometimes it gets stuck on there, which is not a problem necessarily with this one because it starts with a pint glass that has all kinds of measurements and recipes on the outside. So we've got recipes for a margarita, sex on the beach, a Cosmo, a Bloody Mary, a pina colada, and a Mai Tai. So it's kind of like a tropical vacation-y one. I wish it had the recipe for Corpse Reviver number 2. And then it has this which kind of suctions on there. And then of course there is the pour spout so that you can do your more filtered drinks. But I thought this was nice, decent quality for a book box, which sometimes the gifts in book boxes like this isn't like tip top, but this does feel like something that you could definitely use. And there is kind of a thing going on with book boxes, a lot of them where they're including some cocktail recipes to go along with. So definitely something to add to your sort of reading kit, I guess. The next one came on, let me go ahead and read a little section though that kind of gives you a feel for Dorothy's voice that I did mark so that you get the idea of what I had to deal with for 250 pages. So this is chapter 2, Roast Parsnips. Prison is boring, it's nosy, and it's bright. All around you, all the time, every day, there are people, unless you're in solitary, which I might enjoy if I knew I could leave when I wanted, which you cannot. Moreover, you aren't allowed pens or pencils, or sometimes even books in solitary. I tolerate humanity's crush in order to be allowed to write. I behave beautifully so that I have paper, pens, and occasional access to a computer. I suffer for my art. And then later on, she talks about how she writes about remembering different recipes, different food experiences. People tend to think that the most natural stories begin at their beginning and unwind through their middle to their completion, and sometimes they do. But that narrative structure is only as true as time, which is to say, it's as much a construct as a house or a dress or a turducken. Stories are, just like justice or a skyscraper, things that humans fabricate. I started this story, for example, somewhere near the end, but that doesn't make it any less true. It makes it artful, but not false. Let me pause to tell a story from when I was a little girl. It's also true. Everything here is true, because really, why would I lie? Because you're a narcissistic psychopath. And then later, because all of these students are coming to study her, I am special, the students intimate. I am valuable, their breathlessness suggests. I am, as one excited student exclaimed, a perfect specimen of a female antisocial personality disorder. To this, I laughed. I know I am. It may not appear in the DSM-5, but just because you can't prescribe a pill for us doesn't mean we don't exist. Indeed, I am the bronze copper of psychopaths, a big, beautiful auburn butterfly that flaps her darkling wings as she eats. I am rare, and sequestered in this endlessly gray penal institution, I am endangered. Like, right? Like, this is how she talks the whole time. How smart she is that she's gotten away with so many terrible things. And then at the same time, she's in prison. So, you know, there's that. All right. So the next one came on page 89 with the chapter 8 called Rump Roast. All right. Here's where it gets a little bit darker, guys. The human body holds 66 pounds of comestible meat on average, more than you might expect, given how much of humans is inedible. More interesting to my thinking is how many different human parts are ingested by different peoples. Some argue in favor of the obvious cuts, the buttocks, the loins, the tender bits around the ribs, the savory marrow, steaks round as speed skaters' thighs, the succulent brain. Others go somewhat more outre, the palm of the hand, the cheeks, the upper arm. To eat a human heart seems cliché, almost tautological in its weighted emotional shape. I could see the beauty in consuming the blood, perhaps in a nice sausage, but most argue that the blood is too problematic, too potentially contaminated. I suspect it's merely too gross. Universally, people seem to avoid eating the eyeballs and the penis. The former is bitter and the latter chewy. So, for gift number 2, I know, there was a lot of pages like that where you were just like, oh. So let me go ahead and open this up and show you what we got. And while we are at it, you guys, let's have a secret password. So when you come across a secret password in one of my videos, you want to enter it along with your contact information in the Google form that is linked for you in the description box below. And then at the end of the month, I go through and I use a random number picker to select a few winners to receive a mystery box as my way of saying thank you so much for watching my videos. It is in no way affiliated with YouTube or the boxes that I open here on the channel, just my way of saying thank you so much for watching. You do have to be 18 years or older. You have to have a US or Canadian mailing address. Do remember all of that, but all of those details are of course in that form as well. So what we got for gift number 2 is these meat cleaver earrings with a little blood on the edge, and of course the secret password is going to be Cleaver. Yep, Cleaver is our secret password for today. These would have been perfect for Halloween, and again, this was the September box, so I could totally see this working, and that is kind of why I was like, all right, with the more horror side of this, even though it was a lot more psychological and almost cheeky. Like, there's definitely like humorous bits in this book as well. It's just after a while, it got a little bit much for me personally. Like, sometimes it just seemed like grossness to be gross. All right, let's see what our next one was. It was on page 193. I do like make a little list on the side just because sometimes the sticky notes don't go ahead and open the pages for me right away. So let's see. This is chapter 15, Gambaretto. It says, the morning after my swirling, drunken night with Emma, who is her sort of surprisingly best friend from college, which you wouldn't think they would be like best friends, but they explain why. I woke with a migraine and a burning, restive need to do something. Anything. Preferably violent. Flashes of the evening popped like firecrackers, while shards of conversation with Wasserman lacerated me. Wasserman is a cop who is kind of poking around, and she's sort of suspicious of old Dorothy. Nauseated, I lay on my bed in the dark, a crimson silk sleep mask on my eyes, my skin hot and dry, then slick with sweat and pricked with goose flesh. Every 45 minutes I ran to the bathroom and threw up. At first, a lurid, festive mauve, then a clear, acidic stream, then nothing. My stomach heaved, each abdominal convulsion resonated in my head, and the apparitional railroad spike drove deeper into the space behind my left eye. I wanted to pull my brain out through my eye sockets with a button hook. So, just the way she talks and thinks is just kind of gross, right? All right. So that was gift number 3. Came in this little box. I always like when they come in little boxes because they're a lot easier to photograph and keep uncrinkly. Let's see. Of course, this was actually kind of a cool gift. I did like the gifts in this box. We got a sleeping mask, which was referenced, of course, in that passage. And this one was a lovely, lovely, like burgundy color, a deep crimson red, which of course goes with all of the blood and digestion, I guess, that happens, and the wine that she was probably drinking the night before. It just has an elastic back, but it is a pretty nice, soft, silky one, I have to say. It's like we get sleep masks a ton, and you guys know I usually pass them on to someone else. I probably will with this one as well, although it's a very good one for like Valentine's Day or any like self-care packages that you want to do. So kind of cute. I thought it was nice and pretty good quality, very soft, satiny, beautiful. And then finally on page 249, which I think is like the last page, let's see. So that was like the one gift this time around that like really went with the passage. Sometimes I feel like it's just kind of like the vibe, right? We didn't necessarily hear a passage about a cocktail shaker. It just was in the hotel bar. All right, let's see. Oh, this is when she's talking about her childhood and she demands that her mother make a baked Alaska. And she goes off about like how there's nothing elegant about baked Alaska. There's nothing chic. So let's see. It says, every component in the baked Alaska acted like a third wheel, a presence without a function. Even I had to admit that baked Alaska was nothing but a dessert novelty act. My sister and my brother soon grew bored and wandered away. My mother swallowed a single mouthful and lit a cigarette. My father poured himself a glass of scotch. It was left to me to consume this monster of my own desire. So I sat, and I ate, and I ate, spooning one gelatinous, melting, crumbly spoonful after another into my mouth, hardly tasting, merely swallowing. My mother sat at the opposite end of the table, smoking. I glared, and I ate. I ate it all. I even licked the plate. I glare and I swallow here at Bedford Hills. Every day, I glare and I swallow. The baked Alaska was good training. So that's her voice, but it's very effective, right? There's definitely... she's our protagonist, but not the most likable one. So we got gift number 4 in a mailer bag. This was also a really good one. So it is a cutlery set. It is stainless steel. It came in this nice box. This is one of those gifts, though, where anytime it's something like for the kitchen or a place setting or glassware, I would love a set of 2. Obviously, you want a set of 4, but I would love at least a set of 2. But here is what they look like. So I'll go ahead and pull them out. But yes, I just have, just dining for one. I love gold silverware. I could do without this sort of rose gold, mauve, pearlized, metallic stem. But the shape of these, I think, was really awesome. So I might have to just ask her if she has any spares, if I can get one more set, because I think this would be very special. But also, again, we do sometimes have special recipes for different book boxes. Baked Alaska is something that I feel like is just, it is a novelty, and it's something that I feel like children are enthralled by the idea of baking a cake and having ice cream in there. So I just thought this was a really cool cutlery set, very chic, very like something that Dorothy would probably use to elevate her experience of de confit. And hopefully that's what you do, is make a nice cocktail and use some fancy silverware instead of doing what Dorothy does to make meals special and satisfying to her, because she's special. She's a special girl, just like she says. She is one of a kind. But I actually thought these were great gifts. So we got the cocktail shaker, we got the Cleaver earrings, which would have been great for Halloween. Halloween comes around at least once a year. And then we also got our nice sleep mask in a very pretty color, and then our very cool cutlery set. I do wish it wasn't pink, because you guys know me, I just don't like pink. And I also wish we had gotten 2 sets, but there is definitely the element of being solitary and egotistical and having those solo moments that is sort of baked in, if you will, to the novel itself. So I get why we just got the one, and also just cost, obviously. But I thought it was pretty good. Now, if you got to this point in the video and you missed the secret password, go back. There was a secret password. If you enjoyed this video, please help me out with a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate it. If you are looking for some darker reads, both newer ones like this that I think was published in 2020, so pretty recently, or if you like some of the classic mysteries like Agatha Christie she does sometimes, as well as she's done some special limited editions with Stephen King, for example, definitely check out Down the Rabbit Hole book box, and I will see you all very soon in my next unboxing.